So, hello again, and I welcome you to the masterclass with Ann Hui, the director of the film Boat People that you just had the opportunity to see. And again, as I mentioned previously, tomorrow I will be introducing her other two movies, Simple Life and The Stunt Woman. But I would like to use this opportunity to first ask a few questions and which would hopefully introduce a little bit more to you, and then we will give you the opportunity to ask any sort of questions that you would like, be it the boat people or to any regarding any other movie. And I would like to like maybe okay. So you've just seen Boat People, just to have an idea. Is there anybody who hasn't seen the movie right now? Okay, there's one hand. All right. But have you seen any other movies by Ann Hui? Tomorrow. Okay, well, anyways, but obviously everybody else saw at least one movie. But maybe you're thinking, okay, so we've seen this movie from the 80s, and so who is actually Ann Hui? So yeah, so who are you? What is your background, and how did you get into movies? I would like to start with asking you with when you were growing up, were any idea in your head of becoming a director, or how did you get into making movies?
Do you mind if I don't answer that question first?
Sure.
Actually, I've done my homework, and I want to tell you something about the casting of both people. Would you like to listen to that more than my biography?
Okay. All right.
The thing is, it is a very strange thing, the both people casting, because it's supposed to be about a Japanese photojournalist with the Vietnamese people. And not with the Vietnamese as such, but with the Vietnamese Chinese, because these characters, I mean, are actually Chinese immigrants to Vietnam, so they're supposed to speak Chinese, and sometimes speak Vietnamese, and the photojournalist is Japanese. It's they are it's a true story. So the casting is very interesting. It's like the first thing we thought of is to go to Japan to get an actor to play the photojournalist. In fact, I found a Japanese actor who liked our story very much, and we booked him. But for some reason, the production was delayed for 2 years. And during the interim, because I was looking for other actors, I got into the trouble of thinking of the language difference between the photojournalist and the little girl and the other characters. And I thought, oh God, I mean, we'll need a translator during the shoot. And then it made me think of the language problem of the whole picture. That is why if I have a Japanese playing a real Japanese, but I have Chinese actors playing Vietnamese, that's a very strange anomaly. The audience will feel it. So it's better if I have a Chinese actor playing a Japanese and Chinese actors playing Vietnamese. Now, at first, at that time in history, it was my early film. I never thought of this language problem. Yeah, have you thought of these British English films or Western movies where the Nazi generals will speak English with a German accent? They're speaking English, but the German accent, designated their German origins. And have you seen Last Emperor? It's all in Imperial China, but the characters all speak English. It's an English language film about Imperial China, but people do not realize this. And so I thought, oh, maybe the thing is in the casting of such a film, which is actually quite unique. I mean, even now, because it's an Asian film of other countries about another Asian country. Usually in Asia, I mean, that Asian country will be shooting their own films. like Japanese will be shooting Japanese films. So it's a very intricate problem. In fact, a lot to do with the superiority of that culture, whether it is stronger, then the language would take over. It's something like that. Anyway, so in the casting, finally, I thought of a Lam, who is now the photojournalist, and we cast him because he looks for me very much Japanese. And he has no problem because as everybody is this film is not sync sound. We do not record the dialogue, but it's dubbed later. We have a Cantonese version and we have a Mandarin version, and then we show the Mandarin version to Mandarin markets. And in fact, the Cantonese version is the original language. So the whole thing. So we have Lam playing the Japanese because he looks like, but he's Chinese. And then the little girl is a newcomer. She was 19 then, and she played 14. And then afterwards, I found that usually girls can play younger by their own age for about 10 years. Because in another film I shot about 30 years later, there was a high school girl who fell in love with her teacher. The actress is Karina Lam, and she was 23 when she played a girl of 17 in high school, and she was completely convincing. In fact, it's better to ask an older actress to play a young girl because a lot can be done by the costume and all that. Anyway, so Lam played that, and then the girl was cast, and then I wanted Chow Yun-fat to play the Andy Lau role, but he couldn't come, and he didn't want to come because the embargo of the Taiwanese government against shooting a film in China. Then you will be banned in Taiwan at that time. So he didn't want to forego his chances of shooting. So there's the Madame, and I cast Cora Mao, who hasn't been shooting for a long time. And she doesn't play these roles, but I thought it would be very interesting if I asked an actress who never plays loose women to play such a role. And then I cast all the other Vietnamese officials from China, so that especially the officials, they would look very much like the Vietnamese officials because they have a different way of walking, different way of behaving, and then their clothes look better suited on them because there's a kind of similarity between these communist country officials, I feel. And so we cast the people by their cultural backgrounds, much more by their nationalities. So, and I found that in that particular film, that casting really worked. And nobody ever asked a question about, why are these people look funny? Because how come they talk in Cantonese, but they're actually Vietnamese? But in the West, it's even better because Western people cannot tell Vietnamese from Cantonese. So they accept it without any queries at all. It seems so, it never bothered them. But actually, there's a big problem in terms of the casting and the language system and the culture of this particular movie. No, everybody was talking about the politics of this movie and all that, but they didn't know actually the main battle was on the casting and the language.
And you already mentioned that George Lam, who plays the central character, the photographer. But before this movie, he mainly acted in comedies and in very popular movies. Was there any consideration of so he's sort of a star, so let's cast him and maybe have
Yes.
Okay.
He's a cast. He's a star. Let's cast him.
So do you think it helped or
help?
Oh really? And also, but on the other hand, you also had like these newcomers, like Andy Lau was a newcomer back then, right? And Season Ma, who plays the young girl. How did you choose them? Did you do a casting, or did you have them in mind specifically?
It's a standard procedure. I mean, even when we started, that the casting is taken very seriously. I mean, we don't do costume or anything, but we find some studio or empty space large enough to move around, and then we will ask the actors or the actresses for that particular part to come in one by one to act for us. But at that time, we didn't even have the a video to shoot them. We just watch, you know. So season came with maybe 3 other girls, but then immediately we thought she was the best. But she didn't have any shooting experience at all. She was just, somebody spotted her in the Brazil coffee shop, which was a sort of center for these hippie types, young artist types, writers, So she was one of them. So she was 19 when she was cast as a girl of 14.
And what about Andy Lau? How did you get to him?
Andy Lau's, story is often repeated because I wanted Chow Yun-fat to play his role, and it was actually second lead. Apart from George Lam, and it was actually written a lot for Chow Yun-fat because he's supposed to be a womanizer, because sort of good for nothing, but warm-hearted, and died tragically, that kind of thing. But he wanted to act too, but because his manager told him he couldn't do it, otherwise he would lose the Taiwan market. And so I gave up, and then we went to Hainan Island without the character. I said we'll start first, And then in our free time, we heard suggestions from different members of the crew, and there were different versions of who recommended Andy Lau, because I remember it's a cameraman, because he saw him in a movie he shot before, and a supporting role, and said that the kid was very good. And so we asked him just to come. And we were doing things like that, I haven't even seen his photograph. And then he said, Andy Lau said that Miranda, the producer, called him and said somebody asked him to come to shoot a film which is already shooting. And she just, sent him up on the plane, and he has to bring us reflecting lights as well, handheld. So he was holding 2 reflection boards, and then coming down, and we were looking at him and thinking, what if he doesn't look okay, Well, he looks very okay, That was something, it's almost like some kind of a legend.
And so, but you mentioned that there was this fear of for people who participated in this movie that the Taiwan market would be closed to them. Did that actually happen? Were other films shown in Taiwan?
Yes, because I was the only one, and George Lam as well, we put our new names on it. The rest, if you are an actor, you have to use your real name because your face is on the screen. But the people who are working like cameraman, they use pseudonyms, and I'm the only one who is banned in Taiwan. And so the film was banned in Taiwan as well. But this story is very complicated. I don't think it's that worth talking about. How it was banned after it was shown because it was politically incorrect, both in China and in Taiwan. I forgot the reasons. And anyway, afterwards, after about 10 years, I went to the government department in Taiwan to apologize for shooting in China, and then my films afterwards were shown.
So you had to go to some office and apologize, and then they let your films be shown in.
It's like a standard procedure. It's like they got a statement which you have to send it to them, and it reads something like, "I was young and ignorant, and I did not realize my duties. So we went to a territory which was banned to shoot movie," something like that, including the actress. Uh,
And like, but there was also another controversy surrounding both people, and that was when it was invited to Cannes back in the days, because the movie, as it's recounted, maybe you'll correct me, is that it was invited into the official competition in Cannes, but then it was pulled and it was screened only as a secret screening because of the fear that the French government and their relationship to Vietnam would be jeopardized by screening this movie in the festival. Is that how it went down?
Actually, no one told me in plain words that's the situation, but I think maybe that's the situation, and we were shown as a film surprise, but I didn't mind very much. I mean, because I thought, oh, we got a very good box office in Hong Kong. You know, if trying to go to Cannes competition is a little bit too much. I mean, but it never occurred to me that I would never get into Cannes competition ever again in my life.
You think that's because of that?
Not that I care very much. I mean, to be honest.
And you mentioned it was already a hit in Hong Kong.
Very much so.
What do you think was the thing that attracted people to the movie? Was it George Lam? Was it the theme? Was it because it was part of the Hong Kong New Wave movement, or was it even considered that way?
I think maybe a combination of all the factors. Like George Lam was a star, and combined with him, all the actors also played quite well, and the drama itself was self-explanatory, and it can stand on its own. You know, I feel, although the subject matter was really, really very not popular, you know, not a popular subject at that time. But because even my cameraman was shooting it and supported me, he predicted that the box office is only 2 million, but we almost got 10 times that much.
And but you mentioned that the topic wasn't one of the most popular ones, but you already made two other one feature film and one episode for the Below the Lion Rock TV series, which centered around the Vietnamese refugees. What drew you originally to the theme?
I get back to that question which you asked, who I am. I, I think I got into direction somewhat by mistake. I'm a nerd and a film critic by nature. I did my thesis on Alain Robbe without knowing any French. I mean, because my tutor said I can do everything on translation, and I got my master's degree after. I have to admit it. I mean, otherwise people will find out. You see, in any case, I wanted to know about filmmaking and do good critical essays. With that in mind, because I'm a very, very impractical person, I can't drive, and I can't tell left from right, and I have such bad coordination that when I try to step on the accelerator, I step on the brake. I mean, I can't tell my left foot from right foot, and it's for such a person to be a director is an agony. Especially if you tell people not to cross the line, and you know the position of the camera should be right, and you're looking this way or that way. I always, you know, admit defeat and ask my cameraman for help, and they help me all the time. I mean, so I was okay, in fact. But I didn't. I wanted to do that, but then when I got back to Hong Kong and went into television station, They were all women then because the men didn't want to go into television because it was badly paid and it was not prestigious. So the whole floor was women producers. It's a kind of discrimination upside down. So we got to shoot our stuff, really get to be a director. So I just started with that, and then I felt very interested, and I found that I can shoot, dramas and documentaries, and later got into features. That's all. If I were to choose consciously, actually, I would much prefer to do not to be a director, because to be a director is you have to work very hard, and you always have to how do you call it? Take the blame for everything.
You already mentioned that, yeah. So, but just to fill in some details, you studied film in London, right? But previously you studied comparative literature in Hong Kong. So how did you get from comparative literature, majoring in that, to actually like go in to study film in London?
I was doing this thesis with my supervisor, and he was very impatient with me, saying that I have to hand in essays that, from time to time, let's say once every 2 months, periodically, report to him about my progress. And he said, your subject is Ezra Pound, and you're writing to me about films all the time, I think you better go and study films if you like films that much. Because I really like films because it's a form of escape for me. I go and watch 2 movies every day because I was so bored and I didn't know what to do with Ezra Pound. So I thought, oh, why not? I mean, since this is something you really like, I didn't think of any future or whatever. So I tried to find out about film schools. That was in 1970, 1969. I mean, long before your birth. Nobody study films in Hong Kong. I mean, everybody goes to the studio and learn from being a continuity or something. Yes.
And so then after studying in London, you come back, and as you mentioned, you started working in television. Or when you were coming back, what were the options? Was that like, okay, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna be doing projects in television? Was that your first thought, or what were your like thoughts of after you actually graduate from film school? How are you gonna enter the film business in Hong Kong?
Are you so interested in me?
Yeah.
Do you want to know more about films?
Well, I was hoping that maybe we'll get through you to your films.
This is not alcoholic, huh? Yes.
Real.
So when I was in film school, my classmates then were in London, and they were more concerned about my future than me. So when one of their friends' friend was King Hu, the Kung Fu director, when he came to London at that time trying to sell his movies or something, they introduced me to King Hu. And King Hu sort of hired me on the spot to help him carry his films on the 2 days when he was in London. So after I worked with him, he said I could go back and try to get a job at his place. So I got back to Hong Kong and was immediately hired as one of his assistants. And when he was in Cannes, my father asked me to go and to work for TVB because he says that working for King Hu has no future. And I asked my friend, who introduced me to King Hu, I said, should I go to TVB? He was a true friend. He said, it's no good you're sticking with a very famous person. You ought to do your own stuff sooner or later. So you better go to TVB. So I went to TVB and I resigned from King Hu's office. And when I said, he was very gracious. He accepted, but he said, both you and Dennis, the other guy who was employed by him, also a UCLA graduate, He said, both you and Dennis treated my office like a coffee shop. But later, whenever I asked him for advice, anything, he never refused. He was such a nice person.
And when you go to TV, uh, when people are talking about the Hong Kong New Wave and the era before that, and the TV stations being full of young directors or young actual like film professionals who studied abroad, what was the atmosphere back then? It must have been like incredible being among like these teams of young people and creating.
We didn't think of ourselves as a new wave. I think if we did, we would never have done anything. We'd only be, looking at ourselves in mirrors and trying to, admire what we're doing. I think we just slaved away. We just shot and then tried to, not even thinking of improvement, just to get through the day shooting. So I think that was the best experience ever because it's almost like Zen. You're completely you're completely immersed in the job, so much so that you're not thinking of anything. I mean, because after maybe a week of not seeing any daylight, because we were shooting every day and coming back to the station to edit, we sometimes don't go home, And then one day when my colleague told me that one day when she left the studio and walked on the streets and seeing school children going to work, she was thinking, oh God, she's forgotten completely what life was like. I mean, it's shooting to that extent. I think you can only do very good work, or even if you don't do good work, it's great to feel once in a while that way, of being completely committed to doing something.
And in TV, that was where you got to the theme of the Vietnamese refugees, right? You started and based on interviews with Vietnamese refugees, you created the first sort of like episode in this Vietnamese trilogy that you created, and what what drew you to make this into basically like three separate stories? Was it because you did so much interviewing that you wanted to put all these stories into several features?
No. The the thing started with when I was in a TV station called RTHK, which was the government-owned television station, and that they were commissioned to do a series of 7 episodes of stories about the immigration department. And there were about 3 or 4 directors then who took turns, including Alan Fong. And then we're supposed to choose which nationality of foreigners. And at that time, there was a big ship called Wui Feng coming into Hong Kong Harbor in 1978, and it was in the news with about a few hundred refugees, the Vietnamese refugees, and it made headlines. So I thought I'll go to these camps and interview, and then immediately I was hooked by their stories because it was very shows a lot of courage and bravery in terms of odds and very adventurous experiences and many moving stories. So I chose one of the stories or several and made them into one episode for TV. And in fact, at that time, and I asked a Vietnamese refugee himself, who is 12, who worked in one of the earliest Vietnamese restaurants in Hong Kong, to play, and he was wearing the same his own clothes, which is some kind of a Hawaiian shirt. I mean, and he was wearing the whole episode almost. He hasn't got any experience in acting, but he was not afraid of anything, and he was expressionless, which suits the character. So I shot that, and I thought it was finished. But then when I was starting to shoot features 2 or 3 years later, I was thinking, I can do a story about a refugee And so I did Viet. And then later, this Boat People was not started by me. It was started by the producer Miranda Young. And she asked Im Ho to be another new wave director to be the director. Im Ho and I are good friends. In fact, Im Ho wrote scripts for me. And then one day he said, hey, would you like to shoot this? And because I don't want to lose my Taiwan market. So I said, sure, I love to.
You'd love to lose the Taiwan market.
I mean, when I'm saying this, I'm actually very happy about the choices I made. Because at that time, everything was supposed to be, oh, if you do this, you will be ruined. If you do that, you will be ruined. And it seems I was so lucky because all the choices I made, I mean, seems to be right. Especially like I really made a film which everybody, even until now, said it was one of my best films. I couldn't have made such a film if I was afraid of losing the Taiwan market.
Do we have any questions from the audience regarding any element of the movie? Yeah, please.
I have two questions.
Yes.
The first one is about the New Way's name.
Yes.
So basically, because I'm Chinese speaker, so
Yeah.
I know like the boat people is not like Chinese name. So when I just saw the Chinese name and the like English version, I feel like so different with like the names. So could you just explain like why you just picked like Chinese name in another way, not like relate to the boat people?
Yes, because we do not care, especially the bosses. They don't care about the British names. Maybe sometimes they don't know English. So I'm always the one who put in the English name for like, and the English names are always different from the Chinese because I do what I like. I mean, like 南门40, man of 40. I call it July Rhapsody. It's a different name, you know. Like so, this one, both people, is the original name we started off, and the Chinese name would be Xun Man, boat and people, 2 words. But before the film was due for release, Miranda Yang, the producer, who knew Jin Yong, the writer, asked him to give us some names. So he changed the boat people into an action of, you know, plunging into a raging sea as a kind of poetic expression of what the predicament of these boat people. So it's a much more moving and much more dramatic name, and it's very poetic as well. But it wasn't chosen by him too. He gave us several names. Miranda asked us to go to a blind guy who lives in where Jordan, who can predict the future. And he chose this name.
Obviously, it worked well. Yes.
I just have another question about the language because like you talked the language at start. So basically, when I watched the movie, I'm really sorry. That was my first time to watch movie, your movie. No, second time. Sorry. And when I just heard like the language, so they they write in Vietnamese, but they talk in Cantonese. So from the start of the shooting movie, did you think about like maybe the people could talk Vietnamese, not Cantonese?
We cannot, because you cannot find so many Vietnamese in Hong Kong at that time. It was right after 1975. All the Vietnamese have fled to either Toronto or, and the country itself is completely, how do you call it? For the time being, you can't get in. You can't go and shoot in Vietnam, especially about both people.
Because after watching, the first thing was like I just Googled Vietnamese also speak Cantonese or not. So I was like so confusing, like if they can speak Cantonese.
They speak Cantonese. I mean, the people I interviewed, actually, at that time I couldn't tell Vietnamese from Vietnamese Chinese. They're distinctly different. And all the people, most of the people who fled, I mean, some of them are Vietnamese, but they are they are Vietnamese Chinese. They're both people.
Yes.
Hi. I'm really interested in your experience interviewing these Vietnamese
Yes.
people. Was it? Did you learn new things? Was there a different narrative in the media from what they were saying? Did you learn something completely new?
There wasn't any narrative in the media, not that we knew of at that time. There wasn't so much media anyway.
So you constructed this whole story from what the people were telling you directly when you were interviewing these people.
Yes, basically. But it's not the I mean the literal or the truth, but some different aspects from different stories, different different episodes.
Any other question? Regard? Yes. I guess the question is whether what was the opinion of the movie among the Vietnamese refugees, and or how it would differ to international audiences.
Oh, it's like lots of different reactions which are contradict. I mean, they are all opposite. I get wholesale acceptance from as far as I know, Vietnamese. Nobody said that this is a Saigon which was not real. I mean, that was really an achievement because, like, I've never been to Saigon myself, even now. Because a few years ago, when I wanted to go and visit, they told me that they showed both people on local TV, and it was blacking out after 10 minutes. So I don't know whether it's the electricity or anything, but I dare not go back. I mean, yes, it's really an insult to the regime at that time, really. That's true. Uh, Although it was not my real impression to attack the regime so much as to show my sympathy and explain why they have to flee.
Do we have any other question? Yes.
He chose the film. I didn't choose.
I didn't choose the film, but actually, to sort of answer your question, the way we were was actually screened at Filmasia a few years back, and so we wanted to screen these four films because they, aside from A Simple Life, which has been shown in a festival when it was originally released. None of the other films were screened in Czech Republic, and also it was partially limited to which films we could show due to the materials. Some films, unfortunately, weren't available to us in restored copies. For example, we were thinking of showing Summer Snow, which I personally love very much, but that wasn't available in a restored version, or not like easily accessible for us. So there was a combination of some things that, yeah, we wanted to feature films which haven't been screened here, and to actually, like, which were actually available for us, the materials. Yes. Well, you mentioned yourself that you aren't political yourself. You always wanted to tell stories about all people in these specific predicaments, which also relates to most of your other films, which feature people living in Hong Kong, but even though they sometimes they are in specific times or like specific situations have brought them to their current situation, you you mainly tend to focus on the characters themselves, right? And what I wanted to ask you, how do you approach these stories? Do you uh, is is this the beginning where you either like read a headline in a newspaper, or do you like know certain people where which story you want to tell? How do you approach these stories of the common people that you tell in your movies? Yeah, yeah,
Go ahead and get the material together and get a script writer and start writing the script.
no, no. What I wanted to say is in Hong Kong cinema, like what we usually like tend to see is, or especially like in the Western markets, is are these like genre films and genre heroes. But you tell the stories of the regular people of and where do you what what topics do you why do you choose specific topics? So what interests you? Is it
Yes, I get more and more interested in the life of everyday life of people. Before I was trying to do something more dramatic or melodramatic, involving gang warfare, killings, police cases, that's all. And then I got more and more interested in the part which the regular filmmaker is not interested in, like daily life in poor quarters. I mean, not even very, very, how do you call it? They don't even suffer that much, but they're just poor. And because I feel that maybe that's the reality which we are living in. Uh,
and your movies they do get well, quite a lot of them got big awards like the Hong Kong Film Awards, and they get good critical reviews. Are they popular with the audiences? Do they like to see their like daily lives on the screen?
when I go out on a taxi, you see, I can't drive, obviously. I mean, I go on a taxi, all the taximen would say they are my fans. And I was just wondering why the box office is always that bad. I think they don't go to the theaters. I mean, they maybe buy they, they watch tapes or the links or, on a computer. Yeah.
So you think your movies are popular because people are sharing them amongst themselves and they're not going to see them in a cinema?
They see it, but then not in the first run cinema or anything like that. But I think that's a very, very complicated state of affairs, because nowadays, I mean, going to this cinema is something which is challenged anyway. It's very complicated. I don't try to explain the situation, or I just try to keep doing things I feel are worthwhile and things I like to do.
And well, touching on that subject, it is usually said that the 80s and 90s were the golden age of Hong Kong cinema, also in terms of like people going actually to see cinema films in the cinema. Uh, do you see it that way? Did something change in between the last century and this century in terms of the box office, of the popularity of Hong Kong films among Hong Kong citizens?
See, it's very clear that since I think the turning point is 1993, when Jurassic Park was shown in Hong Kong, and it's the first time a Western movie has better box office than a local film. And it is starting from that year that the Taiwanese money, which is the mainstay of Kung Fu movies, especially the big ones in Hong Kong, has withdrawn their how do you call investments in advance of seeing the product, because before that, for about 10 years, especially after A Better Tomorrow, Taiwanese investors have just, on the grounds of a few big names and a story outline, they will invest. And the investment from Taiwan is the mainstay of investment for Hong Kong movies. that without Taiwanese investment, Hong Kong movies cannot start shooting because the local market is very small comparatively, although it's got already very good box office. So starting from 1993, the Taiwanese, the Taiwanese distributors have joined together to decide that they will not invest in Hong Kong movies until they've seen the product. So immediately there was one arm off. So it only depends on the local market. But then by around that time, 1993 until 2000, it's the honeymoon period between Hong Kong films and Chinese films. So it's like that. So Hong Kong will drift towards doing a lot of directors were enlisted to help Chinese develop their kung fu dramas, especially in TV. And so and then also all the action sequences in their films.
And you basically how do you secure funding for your films since they aren't from the usual popular genres like or the genres that travel well and are sold abroad? Do you find it difficult to secure funding for your projects
But
is
the
it
good thing for me is that I've always found funding to be difficult since Boat People. I mean, after Boat People, I have a series of flops, and then since then, I found funding for films for me very difficult. So if it's difficult before 1993, that is the Jurassic Park thing. Afterwards, it's actually getting better for me.
So and is the now that the Chinese market now that quite a lot of Hong Kong directors are aiming towards the Chinese market, do you find it easier to secure funding because how do your films perform?
I think I find it difficult to secure funding now is because the films I really want to make are really art films. I mean, I want to, how do you call it? Uh, how do you, what do you call it in English? Graduate to another level of filmmaking, to deliberately make an art film. And so if I knew it, the subject would definitely not be a popular one. But I don't know whether I can do it too. So it's very difficult for me to make funding. But at this stage, I'm not so. I don't want to shoot anything if I don't want to. I'll just not shoot if I can't find funding. So it's okay. I'll never make my art film. Why are you so happy? You heard, I will I will have to because it's now given to the Golden Scene to do distribution, so it's on their initiative. I mean, not unless someone asks for their copyright, here. Otherwise, I'm not supposed to show the film to you. That I'm so sorry. What? It's better than a lot of my other films. I can only say that.
And how close is it to your ideal art house film? Elegies.
That's not an art film either.
Is it an interstep for you?
It's, how do you mean?
Is it a step in between, perhaps?
I think to be an art film, you've really got to think in a different way. Your perception of reality has to be something which is different but interesting, so that people would like to watch how you see things. Maybe I can't do it yet, and I'm trying to. And the second thing is your technique. Your film language will have to be well thought out and really original. which until now I haven't been able to do, but I would like to try. I mean, but it's maybe a bit late.
So you mentioned like you haven't been able to do it that sort of thing yet. So if you're saying your ideal art film is it even more artier than for example The Secret, your first film, which was highly regarded as a very
I think
original
the nearest
project.
film, nearest art film, the nearest film I made to being an art film is The Way We Are. That is a little bit near, but it is still a little bit too popular. You know, it's too easy to understand.
I wonder, are you writing your own script by yourself? Because I thought The Way We Are is your script, but because it's very you, it's very down to the earth, very mundane.
It's
I couldn't believe
written
it wasn't you.
independently by a student. Yes, I mean, she's not even a script writer. She just gave me an envelope and said, "I have a script for you." That's the story behind it. And then I said, I like it very much, but I couldn't find an investor because it's too uncommercial. And so I said, "You leave it with me. If I can find an investor, I'll shoot it. If you can find an investor yourself and a director, you can take it back." And for 7 years, that envelope, I kept that envelope until I found some money.
And so you yourself, do you write scripts, or do you always work with other script writers?
I think I don't know why this issue about everybody wanting me to write my own scripts. I mean, what? Even my mother said, "Well, you studied literature and you're literate. How come you can't write a script?"
Yes, so talking about the same themes or topics you were like offer, so I was wondering, like, because of both people, it's kind of a controversial topic. So, like, do you think it's like you have a more freedom to choose a topic now, or it's like more restricted compared to like 20 or 30 years ago? But obviously, like this film, you shoot it like maybe 30 years ago. It's a success. But nowadays, I believe that it's not that easy to deliver. And then, yeah, so what's the big, how to put it? So what's the biggest difference? It seems to you like the film market, like the production and everything, like what's the biggest obstacle to you, like as a director?
I don't know. I actually don't know the whole picture. You know, it's because like Hong Kong movies is sort of mixed up so much with the film market in China, and how the films are produced and then distributed. The whole thing, I don't know how it's done from 10 years ago. I mean, before I used to know. I mean, because how it was, the way it's, the money is divided and that kind of thing. But now I don't know. There's so many things I don't know. So I really can't say. I mean,
Do you find any obstacles nowadays in like getting your new projects done, or is it everything working out nicely for you?
it's not working out nicely for me, but I don't care anymore. That's the point. I feel that, I mean, I often worry. I mean, at my age, I ought to sit back and try to do something I really want to. And if I can't do it, I'll just leave it. I mean, because I won't sort of throw up blood if I can't find investors, you know. But I'm sure it's very difficult for everybody now.
Okay, so after so many years, like, are you tired?
Very.
You still have the passion?
I think maybe I can make myself useful in other ways. I think, but but people, especially filmmakers, young filmmakers, they don't like people to keep giving them advice. They say they like, but actually they don't, and I applaud them for it. I mean, why should they listen to other people all the time? I mean, It's better to just try to do your own thing, you know.
Thank you thank you so much for this film. But may I ask a question about love after love?
Yes.
Okay, so to put it very simply and roughly, in many ways, the film version looks much brighter than the original story written by Eileen Chung. Could you talk about the reason why you decided to make the film in that way?
Brighter or better?
Yeah, brighter.
Brighter?
You know, like the Eileen story is much like darker from the very beginning, like her language and the setting and everything. But the movie looked much brighter in many ways. Well, for example, I'll just use a comment from the Chinese internet, like in the last shot when the protagonist was yelling and they said they thought this girl is gonna go into Yan'an and become a revolutionary. So it doesn't. They said it doesn't feel like Eileen's style. But so I'm really curious. Why did you choose to do that?
What did they say?
Well,
Going to where?
when Ma Sichun, when she when she was yelling, and they thought she's gonna shout, "I'm going to become a revolutionary, and I'm going to mainland China and fight the Japanese."
No.
Like some people had this feeling because maybe because it gave a very bright feeling, or it doesn't feel like the moody and the dark tone of the original story. Also, the cinematography.
You say she's going to be a revolutionary in
I'm sorry for this confusion.
Ah.
So anyway, in many ways and in many aspects, the film looks much brighter, or it's not as dark.
I tell you what.
Yeah,
I really feel that what I'm trying to put through in the film has not been understood by the public.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious.
Comparing the story to the original bit by bit, but actually we have a, how do you call it? Turned a lot of the things, changed a lot of things in the original to give it a different meaning. In fact, a darker meaning. But the bright aspects and the pretty clothes and the sort of thing, and is a contrast to what is dark. But maybe we did not point out by showing why it is dark. I mean, emphasize that people miss the point. Because you see, just one thing. If the Wei Long is enlisted by Guma, and then she married a man, and then knowingly that she's going to be the mistress of another. Isn't that worse than working for in a brothel? In a brothel is sort of downright, how do you call it? Open sort of deterioration. But this one is turning everything upside down into a joke. That you are going to marry somebody, but knowingly you are going to be the mistress of a man who knows your husband, and they all know their relationship. Isn't this network of evil, or whatever called depravity, even worse? I feel so. I mean, it's not, and you say it's not dark. It's not dark because according to their lights, it's not dark because it's common with them. It's like in our story, the Guma is actually the mistress of the father of what's his name, the guy who married Wei Long. They are mistress. So it's all a mix up of affairs, and but in the original, it's not that complicated. What I mean is, it's upside down, but it's not to that extent that people ignore this, and live as if it is okay,
So, including
I'm not defending myself. I'm just saying this is our intention, but people just missed the point. They just kept saying, because Eileen Chang is saying that this girl is going into depths of depravity for love of this man, partly because she likes riches, that kind of thing. I think it's that kind of statement for nowadays is not extreme enough, I feel. Because, I mean, nowadays, who doesn't like to be rich? I mean, and they admit it,
So you're really considering the present context, right?
Or,
It's not.
but maybe I've done something which I can, maybe a few years I'll watch the film and maybe somewhere it's not understood.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be offensive.
It's okay.
Yeah, and I actually
You're
felt
very nice.
I actually felt in this way that you wanted to do something very interesting. That's why I'm asking, and thank you for the answer.
So that was one other question, and the man went in the black and white sweater.
Hi. I want to ask a question. You already told that two of your stories, one of them was by student and the other one you got idea from interviews. I'm interested what in the stories that you decide that I want to bring this story to life, and what makes you feel like this is the story you want to share with people. Is it something you want to share with people, or is it something that you want to explore this by making a film about it? And I have a second question about your...
Okay. I'll forget.
Okay. So.
I think it's something in between, like you want to explore something because and then you want to share this as well, as you go along, you explore it all, and then sometimes the sharing becomes important, especially at the stage when you show first cut to people. Then you want to share it. I mean, but maybe you're exploring something and it's not clear. That kind of thing. Yeah.
But is it like you read a story and you wanna you feel something that's not irregular, and that's why you pick the story? I wanna make a film about it. Is it?
I think more and more the feature films are really vehicles for personal expression. I mean, except for the mega productions, in which you want to watch special effects and that kind of thing, fantasies. But then, or science fiction. But now people really want to watch movies, like when we watch Ingmar Bergman and Godard, to see their version of what reality is like, and But I mean, I still feel distinctly, very clearly, when I was in my teens, watching Godard for the first time, that it was some kind of attitude to life which I have not known before. Somebody can feel that it's good to be dead, and it's good to feel depraved, and it's so how do you call it? So idealistic, but at the same time so cynical. It is some mixture which we in Hong Kong in the universities don't understand but find very fascinating. So it's a kind of a way of looking at things which the filmmaker convey, which is representative of a group of people or some aspect of civilization. I think it's very important because it's like these things can't be shown by writing alone. It's very well expressed in films.
Thank you. My second question is about your debut film, because you said the director's work is hard work, and I guess the debut film is the first step, and it's maybe hardest. Can you talk about it, how you come up with the story and how you decided to direct it?
I mean, in my about 40 years of making films, there are different things, so different. And a lot depends on circumstance, Sometimes like about people. I mean, I've already shot 2 of these, so I knew quite a lot about both people. But the project was offered to me. I didn't start it, and I felt I could do it, so I do it. That, it depends a lot on objective circumstance. It's not like I have something to do and I want to express something. Well, this is a typical artist's way of looking at things. I mean, I consider myself a professional filmmaker, which means that I work on it as a job. I'm trying to change. I mean, I'll try to work more like an artist, but I might not be working again, actually.
Thank you.
But did you think that when you made the transition from television to feature films with your first feature, was it a challenge, or was it just like, yeah, I'm gonna make a feature? What was the difference?
I was very excited. I mean, it was a challenge. I mean, of course, it wasn't like I'm gonna make a feature. No.
Yes?
Yeah, it's a question has just bumped into my mind, and I was curious about what's your attitude actually towards like your attitudes towards academic analysis of your movie, because I know that's always the case for like movie icons. And although I'm not an expert of movies, but I guess like while I was watching this film, I guess must be tons of papers on like this is about revolution, this is about decolonization and colonization legacies, etc. So I'm wondering like your opinion, and also because you were so young when shooting this film, and I'm wondering, like, at this stage, like, looking back, whether you would say, because I can kind of feel, I don't know if it's correct or not, but you're kind of feel the need, I mean, for example, to include this block of contents, block of history, stories, symbols, especially at the end, for example. So I don't know whether you would treat the same ambitious or topics, like, differently in different ways, looking back now, or maybe not, I don't know. Yeah, thank you.
I don't know I mean, it's just so difficult to suppose that if I were in my state of mind and shooting that movie, I can't imagine that. Yeah.
Any other question? Yes.
Hello, Anne.
Yeah.
Yes, we talk about the way we are several times tonight, and the way we are is my number one, always my number one film all my life, I think, no matter it's a commercial or art film. So, so you say that you regain the belief in film industry through the way we are. So my question is, after all these years, what's your belief in film you're insisting in, and what belief you gave up about film making?
I didn't give up anything. Maybe if I give up, I would just give up making films. I mean, entirely, instead of trying to make films and give up certain. But I think I can give up some things like the methodology or the logistics of making films. I mean, because nowadays making films is quite different. I mean, I think I can give up that. But like what a film is supposed to express and that kind of thing, I don't think I've given it up.
And what belief you still insist in?
I believe we must try to express the truth of what we feel and see as much as possible.
Thank you.
There's one more question there.
Do you regret making any film of yours? Or ever regret, but now you don't regret anymore, but you regretted before?
I think I kind of regretted the making of what was the Stunt Woman.
Oh, really?
Yes.
The movie which you can see tomorrow.
Yeah, you can see it tomorrow. I feel that it was very unfortunate from beginning to end, from the scripting until the accident of Michelle, and then it was sort of really, really unbelievably unlucky. But yeah.
Again, watch it tomorrow.
Actually, I agree what you said. You intended about the yesterday's film, Love After Love, because actually I heard like very badly reviewed, and I have a very low expectation. I went and I enjoyed the film, and I got the point you intended, I think.
Really?
But yes, yes, that's exactly what I thought. It's like the very tragic, bad story, and you are not never really going to solve this problem in this way. I really saw that, and I saw that, but I know this is adapted from another novel, and I haven't read that yet. I read like 5 page today only to really compare with this film. So because I was also thinking a lot about the film in the art design part, like also what he said, because he said it looks brighter, right? Because like visually it's brighter. So I wanted to know how the original novel was using the language to describe that. And I actually, so far I think you had, because I know you paid attention to that part, to the art design part. But when I was watching, I was so confused, like why you are using this way. And but you know, I enjoyed the film, but I really agree, like you didn't really achieve the part you really wanted to show more to the audience. And also, you know, the film is so big, so many audience that they don't really watch this film or think film that way also went to cinema for this film. So that's like people, they don't see that, but they just yelling the bad reviews. But I still think, like, what part do you think you can really change to make that to like more readable to more audience? And also specifically, I'm so confused about the casting part, like why you choose Ma Sichun and Peng Yuyan, you know. I think it's a big problem there for sure, besides the film, even though that's not the point, I know.
Yes.
Maybe a sort of a related question. Love After Love was your third adaptation of a Eileen Chang novel. Is there anything specific that draws you to her novels, and why you also choose the previous projects like Love in a Fallen City and 18 Springs? Do you have a special connection with Eileen Chang and her writing?
I haven't solved the adaptation of Eileen Chang novel is because I know it's got to be, if we try to shoot Eileen Chang, it's got to be done like who? Fassbinder, who had shot well, Alexander Platz and all these novels using his own, making it into his own thing. I mean, like using the story as a characters. I mean, as a starting point, but actually changing it into something like personal. I mean, to the director. But I think for someone to adapt Eileen Chang, I am not good enough to be able to override what she does. So I'm doing sometimes adaptation, sometimes how to bypass her to do something else within the subject. So it's shaking it from time to time and always a little bit timid. But I think maybe if you shoot Eileen Chang, you will have to shoot what you think about her more than shoot the story. But I think it will be, I mean, maybe some other filmmakers might be interested in, it's like doing Shakespeare, updating Shakespeare. I think it should be done that way.
So our time is coming up, but if there's one last question from the audience, we can do that. So anybody has a last question for Ann Hui? What's your next film?
I haven't any yet. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I guess we'll just keep our fingers crossed for your art film then.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Ann Hui. Thank you very much to Cinergy and to Filmasia for making this talk happen. And thank you for attending it.